call him a special guest anymore, but we've got Mayhem Mondays. We got a lot in store. Yo, let's get to it.
Let's do this.
Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
So you weren't talking about the delay after that video. You were talking about the delay when you first start.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of talking about, like from there. So we'll kind of play back and kind of see, because we'll talk about it a little bit more. But good morning, Lisa. Good morning, how you doing?
Lisa.
Good morning, Lisa.
It's awesome to see. So Dan, let's I know Jeff and I, we've been doing our thing on the Mondays, but we want to get back to the flip cards, man. Let's get back to it. Really go ad hoc, as Jeff always kind of says. And we got Lisa from two places. I feel like Lisa's trying to get our views up, so she'll go on YouTube and then she'll go on LinkedIn, like anything for sales chatter. So good morning, Lisa. I loved your post on Friday about basically LTL carriers and things like that, and what we would do. It was definitely full of value.
Yeah, keep it up.
Also, just want to say good morning to Ashley as well. Nice to see you out this morning, especially early in the morning. So, boys,
it's supposed to be a heck of a week this week, boys. It's supposed to be well, anyways, I just want to say before we get going, guys, thank you for Friday. That was awesome. Thank you for your shout outs Friday, and to all of you that shouted out Friday. Jeff, you did get the story a little wrong. Yeah. So, and I'll just share this story before we get going. So I was driving and I was recording a video, and in the background, it was a massive snowstorm. I was on my way to London, and cars were literally spinning out. And about 10 seconds after I finished the video, a car in front of me spun out and was facing me. And I post the video the next day, I think. And I about 2 hours after I post the video, I get a DM from Jeff, and we hadn't met yet. Kind of commits back and forth, maybe commented on a few posts, but that's about it. And he says, "Hey Dan, I hope you don't mind, but I like your content." And there he disappeared.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, he said, "Screw you, Dan. I'm gone." Forget this. I don't want to. Yeah. I was right. You were wrong.
Yeah, exactly. He goes, "I like your content." He goes, "However, I think you might be setting the wrong example." And he was very diplomatic, very professional. And he just said, you're driving. He goes, "I don't know if you realize, but there's cars literally having accidents behind you, and you're training people on sales." And he says, "I just think it might be more appropriate for your network if you were parked." And I remember vividly, because I replied back saying, "Jeff, thank you so much. I really appreciate that." It wasn't and then that's how we hit it off. We became friends ever since. It was very, well, like you always are, Jeff. You're always looking after that next person. And it was not condescending. It was not like, "Hey, wake up, you dumbass." It was very, it was no, but again,
I was just gonna say,
some people might, right? What do you think you're doing?
True. Very true.
And it was very humbling, because I just kind of stopped and went, "Holy crap, I never even thought of that." I never even, sometimes when we do things, we don't think of what around us is happening, which can be portrayed as something else. Do you know what I mean? And so when I heard that on Friday, I was like, "I don't do that." I was like, "Whoa, big guy, whoa!" But anyway, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. It's good I had a good night's sleep last night, so I'm here.
Good.
All right.
That's all.
So, you guys ready?
Let's
This
go.
has not happened in months, man. This has not happened in months. So who's gonna say stop?
Let's go, Jeff. Man.
All right, I'll go. Stop.
It'd be so funny if all those were.
So we did this on 7.5. DJ and I did this on 7.5. So I'll bring it to you guys, and you let me know if you're interested, and if not, we'll redo it, because we're in the 10th month now. Ahead, on time, or late. Why so frustrated? So it's all about when you're ahead, sometimes shippers are frustrated or receivers are frustrated. When you're late, shippers are frustrated. And when you're on time, sometimes they're frustrated. You want to do that one, or you want to try another one?
Let's try something else.
I should really take the ones that we've done already out for the year.
Out, yes. Good. Right there. Come on, be something different.
Whoa, okay.
Uh-oh. What did I choose?
The top questions to ask to determine if your lead is actually hot.
Woo! That's a banger. That is a banger. Let's
There we
go.
There
Wow.
we go. Okay, who's starting? Go for it.
Go, Jeff.
Yeah, Ryan.
All right. I'll take the lead on this one. I think okay. So for me, there's a qualifying questions to find out if they're in their buying season. I think the number one question I kind of ask them is, hey, what is your timelines like? Like, when do you look to add or either remove a service provider from your network? A lot of customers right now, a lot of prospects, they'll push you towards a yearly RFP, or I feel like it's like your first date with somebody, right? They're not gonna tell you all this stuff right away, saying, "Hey, I'm ready to dance," let's go. So it's gonna take some prying. So just coming back to the question I asked is, hey, when are you looking to add or remove a service provider from your network? And then kind of build it out from there and ask like, okay, well, what do you mean by certain questions? Like if they say, hey, we usually do this in September. Ask them, hey, what's the big reason for September? Is it an RFP, or is it something where you guys are working on your new budget for the next year? What's really important to you? And just kind of like unravel it from there. Take their words and basically not throw it on them, but just kind of get clarification. Like I don't have it at all.
Can I ask you a question, brother?
Of course. Go for
If
it.
somebody puts you into an RFP, does it determine them as being hot?
It just depends. It depends on the conversation with the person. So if it's an RFP, like okay, let's call it. Let me ask you a rebuttal to the question, right? So let's say it's an RFP for an 800-pound gorilla, right? You're getting 2,000 lanes. You're like, oh crap, I'm going to be lowest price. But I've been on many RFPs where literally there's 8 to 10 lanes, and 2 of them might fit for me, and I'll quote on them from there. So I think if they're going to be hot, it just depends on the fits. I'm not for me. I do RFPs, but I don't do RFPs where, hey, I'm just going to throw everything on the board and go from there. But it simply has to be a fit within my network. And just to come back to it, my intro emails is always about what the lanes I'm running and what I can be a service of, right? So I'm not going to sell Z to F or anything like that. I'm going to sell A, B, C, and D. So yeah, it depends on the relationship that I have with them. I'm people based, so I'll always have those conversations with them. Hey, you like dogs? What do you do? What do you do outside of your living? So I think when it comes to if a prospect is hot for me, it's if we mesh and if they hit my ideal client profile.
Okay. Yeah, something just to go back on the RFPs. Sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of shippers out there go fishing with the RFPs.
For sure. That's why I asked.
Yeah, exactly. I knew where you're going with that, but when they do that, you have to qualify them as the reasons why they going out in the first place to do this RFP. Hey, how did you get my name? Number one. Okay. Because if you've never spoken to this person and then all of a sudden you get an email from them or you get a call from them, you want to find out and dive into it to find out, hey, how did you find out my name?
Well, funny enough, Jeff, just not to interrupt you here, but one of my questions that I always ask on intro calls is, hey, Ryan from X company, have you heard our name tossed around? That is like one of the biggest, like that's one of my favorite questions to ask because you get instant credibility, right away. But
that's on the receiving side. Instead of you calling them, they've reached out to you and asked if you wanted to get involved into the RFP. So those are the kind of questions you want to find out, what brings you, especially the time of year, because if you're in this industry, you kind of know when those RFPs are going to go out and play a role in their budget and their forecast for the following year, right? So you really have to dig into them to find out, because a lot of these guys out there, it's unfortunate, they go fishing. They may go out to 100 carriers and just to see where they need to be to go out to the right carriers. It might be incumbent carriers that they're already doing business with that they want to keep them honest. All right. Because they're going to come up and say, let's reevaluate the rates that we already have in place with you. I've been watching the market. I've been talking to people, so forth and so on. We need to reduce this. X amount or whatever it may be, hey, how can we increase our discounts on that? If I happen to shrink down the number of carriers that I have already in my corral and I up your revenue by 500K or maybe even $1 million, what's that worth to you? You know, even on a negotiation, if we could do quick pay, you give me a 1%, discount on that. There's so many different ways, but I think that's the biggest thing you have to find out in the first place is, one, how did they find out your name, your company? Why did they reach out to you? How can you help them? And when those things happen, you can uncover other opportunities, because you're not going to try to hone in on just the RFP process. You want to start look like what I would do is I would start looking into their operations, not the same thing about, hey, what keeps you up at night? Because I think that's like a number one question, what's the biggest thing, but start uncovering where their facilities are. Oh, that's really good. I happen to go into the Aurora, Illinois market too, and so forth and so on. But you want to identify what niche they are in, because when they're calling you, you don't know what niche they are. You don't know what products they're shipping or whether or not it's going to fit in your wheelhouse. So you definitely want to uncover those questions there and get.
So I'm going to take it a little bit of a different angle, only because I personally don't believe any RFPs, unless I go into round 3 or 4, are hot. Every RFPs mostly are to keep their incumbents honest most of the time. I've been involved in a lot of RFPs in my career, and I, just like Scott says, so many people will mark them as hot just because it's an RFP. I've been there where it's like, oh my God, this RFP is going to change my life. I'm going to get a Porsche when this is done, and it turns out to be bullshit.
No.
So I don't consider any RFP hot. If I'm speaking to the customer for like a year and I understand certain criteria, are they qualified? Do I understand why they buy? Are they into the fulfillment stage? And then they do an RFP, then I might put it into that warm category. But why are they doing the RFP? What is the nucleus of why they're doing it? If that matches my client profile, then I might put that in as hot. So I'm going to come at it from a different angle. For all you salespeople out there, we're getting into, we're last quarter. Really, it's crunch time, right? If you haven't met your quota or your desired goals, your ambitions throughout the year, now you're really pushing to do that. However, a lot of the time, salespeople think leads are hot, and they're not. And what I mean by that is, do you understand their actual shipping cycle, their busy seasons? Have you qualified them? Do you know exactly why they buy? And I'm not talking about why they say they buy, really why they buy. Those for me are the top 3 questions. If my manager would come to me when I was in corporate and say, okay, give me your opportunities for that you might close in the first quarter or in the last quarter, I would look and I would go through them. And if I didn't understand their busy seasons, when they needed help, when they didn't, why they purchased, what some of their problems were from past suppliers, they're not really hot, because you haven't had the conversations. And how do you know that you can serve them until you understand what the challenges were in the past or what their goals are for the future? We really can't, because all we're doing is we're closing our eyes and we're shooting darts at a dartboard instead of getting laser focused and using a bow and arrow to hit the bullseye, right? Those are the 2 differences. So for me, I need to understand the nucleus of the opportunity with the prospect, and I need to hit all the dots. And sometimes we hit all the dots and we don't necessarily start doing business with them right away. You guys both know that, right? You'll hit it off. It'll be, hey, listen, I got my incumbents. You've hit every single button along the line. When something happens, because I wouldn't just pull you out to put somebody else in, why am I going to do it to them? Okay, it makes sense. So we sometimes have to be patient for that time in line. I don't know. I'm very much, as you can probably tell, I'm very negative on RFPs. I am, and I've probably, both of you from the beginning of time, I've probably been like this. I would prefer companies that don't. I would prefer to get ahead of RFPs. Like every company that says, well, we're thinking of doing an RFP, I will do everything in my power to get ahead of that RFP and corner a section of their market before an RFP goes out, or even try and get them not to do an RFP. That would be my approach. But for me, when I determine, is a lead really hot, right? It's a big question, because I do believe so many of us, and I was guilty of this for years, thinking a lead is super hot And then all of a sudden it's like they disappear. It's like,
Yeah.
Where'd they go? Like, they're not answering your phone calls. They're not answering your emails. You're like, man, I was about to close this last week. Or you're like, oh, this next phone call. Oh boy, next phone call. I'm closing this mofo. I'm gonna get this one now. And 10 phone calls later, you're at the same conversation. You haven't moved forward in the conversation. And for me, those were probably the biggest ones. Is it reciprocal? Right. So one big thing to determine if a lead is hot is it reciprocal? Hey, do you have time on Tuesday at 2:00? Yes, I do. Okay, let's get on a call. And they actually get on the call.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not off somewhere. Or if they are off somewhere because a fire bell went off, hey, Dan, I'm so sorry I missed our 2:00. Can we reschedule for tomorrow at 2? Like that, those to me are key signs as hot prospects. And as a manager, I used to ask my salespeople all these questions.
Mhm.
It's okay. So what's their busy season? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, why do they buy? Well, I don't know.
No.
Well, how do you know if the lead's hot? Oh, he likes my rates. Okay, he likes your rates, but if he doesn't buy rates
Right now,
who cares? He likes your numbers. Great. What are you doing different than any other supplier he has? Well, I don't know. Okay, so we got some work to do. And then I asked them to go back and investigate. They come back and they're like, oh, wow, yeah, no, not even close. A million times it's happened. It's crazy. And that's why I love this question so much.
yeah. Yeah, Dan, to go back to the RFPs, and I agree with you wholeheartedly for one reason. You'd like to be part of the team of the prospect who hopefully turns into a customer first, to get ingrained and start learning their business and then be asked to join into the RFP. That's the best way to do it. Not up front because they're fishing the way that I look at it. But let's just say you get a couple of lanes and you start knocking them out of the park, right? You're doing a great job and you have these conversations and you're talking and you're gaining their trust. You're being honest. Your integrity is first and foremost. And then boom. Hey, Jeff, listen, you've been doing a really good job on these lanes. We have an RFP that's coming up. Would you like to participate in it? Boom. I mean, that's the best way to do it. Now, to go back to a hot prospect, I do things a little bit different than most people out there, because what I do is that if I get a customer on board, I'm going to work that customer. And a hottest lead that you can ever get from a customer as having that customer give you that reference to their vendors and their suppliers. That's a hot lead because they're interacting on both ways every single day. And if you can expose that and get identified as a true partner, you're boiling. You're not hot. You are boiling. And the next thing you know, I always say, if this is a spider's body, you've got many different legs that are revenue streams. That's the way I go about it. I don't do 1,000 calls like a lot of other people. You know it, Dan. You know it, Ryan. I do it in a different way because I like it to be hot kind of all the time. So when I have the prospects that come on board that turn into a customer that was a reference, I work that and I work it to death. And I try to knock it out of the park. And there's no other better lead that's boiling than something like that. And it starts
your customers are your greatest salespeople.
Yeah, but you go into another spider's body because that vendor that's supplying your customer, they have vendors, they have suppliers and everything. It goes upstream and it just keeps on going. So the best kind of reference that you can get is a reference from a current customer that you're knocking it out of the park. That's one of the best leads that you can ever get.
100%, but also those leads might not turn into anything. They don't always turn into something because what you do might not be exactly what they're looking for. But absolutely, I mean, customer references are gold. But platinum. I mean, I'd like to go back to something that you said there because it's interesting. So you've had prospects, you haven't done business with them, that have liked you so much that they've given you references to other companies?
No. A prospect
that
turns into a customer, and then they in turn happen, like I said, moved a couple lanes, and then, hey, Jeff,
yeah, okay.
I got a mini bid coming up. I want you to get involved in that. I just did a mini bid, and I'm supposed to get the answers back today, but I have a very good chance because I have a very good working relationship, and I kill it like every single day with those phone calls and tell them about drop trailer numbers, and this guy's going to be late or this guy's going to be early, and you just keep on doing the right things.
Well, you're doing service, right? Like you're providing the service, so it's like and that's what
whether you're using tools to do that on the data side of the business, or you're always on the phone and basically saying, hey, customer A, how's things going today? You got anything going up this week? Well, hey, I've got this, boom, boom, boom. I mean, it's just those conversations that you have to have, and you try to beat them to the point. And a lot of times, listen, do I fail? Absolutely, I fail, but I fail in a good way, because my customer will never tell me that something's going wrong before I tell them that something's going wrong, because that's the best way to engage with the customer. Don't let shit hit the fan and have them call you and tell you that the shit's hitting the fan. If the shit's hitting the fan, you call them up and go, listen, we've tried everything possible on this lane, and it's unfortunate, but I'm pulling it. I don't want to go to the spot market. I do not want to go and do all this kind of stuff. And they appreciate that so much more than calling up and saying, Jeff, man, what the hell's going on? You don't want those phone calls. You got to fend them off as much as you possibly can. It doesn't happen to me all the time, but when those things happen, you have to be prepared to talk smack with them and do the right thing before they call you.
Yeah, I agree with that, but that's like kind of like coming into the service portion of it and kind of getting the customer. But like the topic kind of is like talking, how do we determine, or the questions we ask that are going to be if they're a hot prospect or not. So not even like a customer at that point, right? And I know, like Jeff, you mentioned like, hey, if you made 5 calls this year, it's a lot, right? But even for some of myself, I make those calls, and you kind of pick up different routines. Dan, you guys are talking about referrals. I saw a post on the weekend on LinkedIn on the SaaS side that only 11% of sales reps actually ask for a customer reference. And it's just like I would love to see those numbers on our side, right, the logistics side. But coming down to it, somebody who does make calls,
they're actually horrible, Ryan.
Well, here's the thing, right?
I
know I used to not ask because like I didn't want to seem like, hey, I'm better than my customer or anything like that. Like it was that mindset that, hey, maybe I've gotten all the freight from them already. I want to move on, and maybe they won't be serviced as much. That was a mindset that I had like early on in my career. But and I think the one thing that we learn in this industry, and you should be learning, is that, hey, if you're a shipper or receiver, you've got a customer, you should be calling the people who are not your customer that you're delivering to, because they're going to know you're going to have those calls anyways to ask, hey, what are your shipping hours? When do you want us in? And things like that. And just relay that conversation. You've delivered a couple of shipments over there. You know the guy's name. You know the guy's phone number. They know who you are. So I think, like as Lisa kind of says here, be proactive in that things. But I would love to kind of know like what kind of questions you guys earlier in your career you guys have asked like prospects. As straight up prospects, they don't know you. You're calling them. So it's not inbound. It's definitely outbound. You guys ask to get to that from cold to warm to hot.
Yeah, Brian, just one thing. Just one quick thing, Dan. About reaching out to your consignees that you're delivering to, right? Some customers are very protective of the consignees that they have, and would prefer you calling them than you calling directly to their customer. That happens a lot. It's better to ask permission first. Hey, do you mind? I'm following your load, and I just want to reach out to your consignee to make sure that it delivered great, all that. That's something that I do. Many others don't do that. Would you mind if I reached out to your consignee and spoke to them?
I'm kind of on the opposite of that. I don't agree with that, to be completely honest. I think that businesses are businesses. At the end of the day, like, hey, if I'm delivering to a company, if I'm delivering to company B, company A, who's my customer, it doesn't really matter that I don't need to really ask for permission. But I kind of live in the kind of mindset that it's better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. But it's different to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's another thing. If you're going to, so I would always do the 5 load. Better business, right? And what I mean by that is I would do 5 loads, and then I call the customer and say, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What can we improve on? And this is the nucleus of my reference letter mastery course. And what would happen is, if everything was good, we're doing everything right, there's nothing we can improve on, we're good, I'd ask for a reference letter. And the reason would be is because I want to take that reference letter to the consignee. And so I would actually include that reference letter in my introduction email, or I would talk about it. I would bring it up in my introductory phone call. And I'd say, well, what's your email? Here, let me send this to you. And I'd send it, because that is a really hot way to get into that customer, because our customers break down walls quicker than any of us can ever. I don't care how good you are in sales. I don't care how good you are at moving freight. Your customer will break walls down 1,000,000 times faster than you can. And with that, research.
Yeah, that's it.
And with that, you know, there's a whole bunch of different ways to knock that initial wall down, right? Through the years, it's been, I want to understand how you're operationally set up to see if we are congruent. What's your primary and secondary reason for adding or switching a service provider? That's a big one for me, because I want to know right off the top of their head, well, price and service. So I know price is going to beat service out any day of the week if price was the first thing they said, right? A lot more image, credibility, and brand is what I've been going in at these days. My whole focus is on your image, credibility, and brand. Is that something you're interested in growing and enhancing in your network? No. Why would I care about that? I'm here to do a job. Okay, well, it's obviously not my ideal customer, because my ideal customer cares about their image, credibility, and their brand. I've always said, get your client profile, and your first question to every prospect should be the number one thing you're not willing to budge on. So in your client profile, my client profile is, I have to be a resource. I don't want to deal with customers that think I'm just a necessary evil, or is going to play me against Ryan and Jeff. I have to be a resource to that company. So I will hit them with a question that figures out if they believe that their suppliers are resources. Hey, do you believe that your logistics supplier is a resource for you to remain profitable?
Yeah.
No, I think you guys are all pieces of shit. All right, well, you have a great day. I'm not interested in working with you. And I eliminate it, because here's the thing. If I can take my sales leads in my system and squish that and literally kick customers out fast, I'm only left with ones that I want to work with. So every single phone call, right? Think about it. So if you take, say, 100 leads a month and drop them in your system, and you work those leads, and you dwindle that down to 10, every phone call is going to be a productive phone call, because you see eye to eye, right? That, for me, that's the way I did. I used to pound out 50, 60 calls a day. When I had no business, it would be like 80, 90 calls, because most of it's voicemail and all this. I mean, I would be dialing. I remember sitting in the pit, and I'd be under my desk, because all the guys would be playing football, and they'd be hooting and hollering. And I'd be under my desk dialing, because I heard dialing for dollars. You dial, the more you dial, the more you make. The more you dial, the more you make. Don't get me wrong, you have to dial. But I think you also need to qualify as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Because why would you want to have conversations with people that is not going to drive you, your business, and your life forward?
Right. Makes sense.
I don't, right? Like, I don't see it. But a lot of salespeople, they don't come out with that. They come out with the, I just want to see how you doing today, and how operationally, how
Touching
are you
base,
and
checking in.
how's your business, and
how was the football game last night? When you don't even care about football.
No, but something seriously though. There's a lot of salespeople out there that think that they're a jack of all trades, which I don't think is the right way or method to push sales forward. So if you're this far out, to Dan's point, right, you have to start narrowing your focus and start getting your niche. So you're bringing that in and in and in until you're right here, and you know exactly what that niche is, where you're going to be mostly congruent with the people that you reach out to, because you have like-minded ideas. You'll find that out, especially not out here, but here you will find that, where you'll be making less phone calls. To your point, I mean, just seems logical, Dan, that you would have a higher percentage of success on 10 than what you would do on 100, because you've narrowed that focus down and you streamline everything that you need to do. Okay, if you're not a reefer guy, stay the hell away from reefer. If you're into van moves and you like the geographical area of the Midwest, stay in that lane. You know it, understand it, and be the best that you possibly can in that lane and concentrate in there. You'll have better success than being way out here. You know, it just seems very logical when you really think.
Well, and there's also, so there's a couple of things with that, Jeff, and it's a great point you bring up. So one, you know, you got geographical, you got commodity, you got equipment type, right?
Yep.
And you also have people, because in the end, it's people. That's all it
Sure
is. It's people with people. So I've actually gone in and said, I like to work with people that care about A, B, C, and D. Is that you? And they said, no. I said, okay, have a great day. And they're like, but hold on, I got 15 loads a week. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
not.
like
And this only happened probably in the second decade of my career, because I was sick of dealing with the assholes. I was sick of dealing with people that are your best friends when they need you. And as soon as something goes wrong, they scream and yell. And it's like, you know, you've busted your butt for years working with them, and they scream and yell, and they're like, you're gone. Like, what? And I was just so fed up of it. So I started looking at it and saying, okay, what is business? Business is people. I don't do business with a logo. Does the logo look good on my resume? Some might think yes. Some might say no. Some might say, I don't care what logo's on my resume. It's how I deliver and what my customers say about me. I agree with that. But other people might want to have the, you know, big names on their client profile list or whatever it is that they can show everybody. So be it. To each their own. To me, we deal with people.
Yeah, it's about here.
And I'm going to be working with you, Jeff, for 10 hours a day. Really, I am. When I'm moving freight, I'm working with you 10 hours a day. If we are going to be interacting 3-4 times a day because you have a lot of business, I want you to be the right person, right? When I say, hey, listen, I'm having a problem, I have to go pick my kids up at school. Man, go do it. Go do it. Instead of saying, well, I don't give a shit. We have stuff happening. Make it happen. And there's we've all experienced both sides of this. So in the latter part of my career, I started working with people. And when I started working with people, my numbers accelerated at a pace that I didn't even believe possible, because it's the people. So if you focus on those 4 categories, whatever one you want, you can be an expert geographically, you can be an expert in a commodity, you can be expert in an equipment type, or you can be an expert of people.
And that's most important.
Right. And
I mean, and the biggest thing too, the biggest thing too, Dan, is that, and this has got to be number one of the best relationships that you can have with a customer or even a prospect over time is being able to agree to disagree. Agree to disagree. Those are the best freaking relationships that you can, because it goes beyond being congruent. It truly does, because when you're not bickering and complaining of different things, and you understand what they're saying, they understand what you're saying. They may not agree with it, but they say, no, I understand your point, but I'd really like to. Best damn relationships that you can ever have.
I agree.
You meant to add to a point with Dan, with people too. Like, you got to understand as well, on the flip side of it, like having that relationship with your customer service and your ops team, knowing their limitations as well. Because if you have an ops team behind you, you could be selling, I could be slinging, and I could be selling you, telling you sweet nothings in your ear. But the team that's going to execute for you, if they can't execute, your credibility is shot, right? So I think when I look at my ideal client profile, I ask my customer service and my ops team, what is your ideal client profile? What are the lanes you guys like to run? Has there been any new customers for any other sales reps? You don't have to tell me the customer, but what are you guys doing with other sales reps? And are you guys finding success with it? Because at the end of the day,
what is it you hate?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's only going to work out that way. So I think, and it just depends on the situation, because we got a lot of sales reps here. Some of them might be cradle to the grave, so they're doing it themselves, so they can answer the questions themselves, or somebody who has like a team behind them running from that aspect. So that's just kind of like my point on kind of like people as
Ryan,
well.
I think that's a very, very critical point.
Yeah.
Very critical. I can remember, and I'm as embarrassing as it is, I remember back in the day when I first started, I used to be the traveling salesperson, and my business partner Crawford was the operations guy. and I would close a deal. And I would come back, and I remember my team lead in operations, she'd come up and go, "There's no way." And I would just look at it and go, "That's your job, figure it out." And I'd walk away. And as embarrassing as that is, because it's horrible. It was the mentality that we all had as salespeople, right? I'm bringing in the business, you close it.
Yeah.
And then we'd complain when the profits weren't where they were at the end of the month, because all I did earlier in my career was, you want it for 900? I could do that.
Yeah.
No idea what the market held. None. The market could have been $2,000. In 900, done. Shooter McGavin, we're good. Let's go. Next lead. Yeah, next one. And you get back, and the ops are like the going rate's 15. We'll find somebody.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the worst thing you can say.
That's not exactly the easiest thing to do. But for me, it was my job to bring in the business, your job's to move the business. Do it.
And that's the thing. That's the thing about
horrible.
leaders and followers. Leaders and followers, right? Not just on the sales side, but on the logistics operation side, right? Now, to Dan's point, if you're just doing the sales and then your partner's doing the operation and then you just wash your hands, you go, you take care of that. No, a true leader is going to get in the trenches and learn that side of the business as well, so that you understand what you're doing on the sales side. You really have to be able to change, understand, and fill that knowledge bank of yours. It's like when you go in and you're running a huge logistics operation, you have to get the operation side inside of it. You have to get the sales side in there. You have to get the carrier side in there. Huge collaboration. It's just not done by pieces, and you go do that, and they don't need to know what's going on over here, and you go do that. Don't worry about these guys. No. You got to get that nucleus, and everybody's got to be on the same page. And that's how things magically happen. When you're disengaged, that's when things all go wrong. So, to your point, Dan, you have to don't leave the trench. Get in there and get more dirtier than the people that are working for you.
Yeah, and don't get stuck on the freight too. Don't get stuck. Like, one of the biggest things, if you're bringing somebody on, like, find out what their payment types are. You got to find out their credit, what they have for credit wise, to see, hey, are they going to be a good customer? Because, hey, a shipper who doesn't have good credit or anything like that, they're going to be churning service partners as they keep on going. So it's important to
and Ryan, that brings this back. This is the starting point.
Yep.
Client profile.
Yeah.
Part of your client profile is, how well do they pay? Right? How well are they? How good are they on credit? How do they treat their suppliers? It's not just, okay, I want to work with a guy like Jeff because Jeff is straightforward.
Yeah.
No, there's so many pieces to that back end of your client profile. And when you operate inside your client profile and do not take any off ramps, your business will change overnight. Guaranteed, because you're bringing like-minded people into your world, and you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most. And why not bring the right people in? Simon Sinek said it best: get the right people on the bus. Why put the wrong people on the bus and then go back and try and move people around? Right? Get the right people on the bus to start. And that's one thing if I were to write a letter to Dan 28 years ago when I got in this industry, I would say that. Find out the right people you want to deal with. And at that time of my life, it would have been much different people than I wanted to deal with now, right? I was 17, 18 years old. It would have been, hey, who wants to party? What customers want to party and go drinking on a Friday night? Because I mixed my both worlds were they were joined. All my friends were part of the company. I had no friends outside the company. It was joined. So that transitions as you grow in the industry, and your customer profile transitions as well. When you're first starting out as a carrier, maybe your ideal client profile is a broker that has a lot of freight. You don't care how he treats you right away or she treats you right away, because all you want to do is you want to get some revenue. You want to get some miles under the belt.
Some numbers on the board.
But as you grow, you want solid customers that pay you a decent amount. So we all of us have transitioned client profiles probably a couple of times in our
100%.
lives.
Yeah.
And we will as we continue to move forward. But if you're consistently bringing those right people on the bus, well, you're going to have a much better life and career. It's going to be much more joyful. You're going to have much more impact. You're going to have fun. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I can tell you, there's been probably 2 or 3 times I've lost complete interest in this industry. Hated it. Like everybody's cutthroat. Everybody's out to kill each other. This is bullshit. I'm getting out. And it's because I dealt with the wrong people.
Yeah.
All right. I was just bringing people in because they had business. And I was like, okay, you got business. I can make $100 on you. You're in. And it's like, but that now they're taking up 90% of my ops time for $100. You know, they're saying things to my ops team that is just rude and ignorant. And my ops team are saying, I don't want to work with them. And I'm saying, well, he's a customer. He pays our bills. He pays your paycheck. You got to work with him. Right. And I love that you brought that up on that side, Ryan, because that's such an important piece of our business as well. And it's just, it goes back, client profile. The number one thing, if any of you watching, listening, if you do not have a client profile, do not make a single sales call today until you figure out your client profile.
And and
then ask yourself, do these prospects fit that profile? If they don't, take them out of your system. And I know everybody's going, oh my God, Dan, are you crazy? I've had 15 comments. In the end, you will be a lot happier. And it's from my own personal experience. This isn't, making this crap up. It's almost 3 decades of selling and realizing the power of the right people in your corner.
Here's another thing that's crucial in the client profile and qualifying them up front. How many people out there do a D&B background check on the customers before you even go out there? Go to Dun & Bradstreet and you see what their credit ratings is and everything like that. That's a key touch point as well, especially if you're dealing with the big companies to see what kind of payers they are. It can give you so much more background before you even make those phone calls out there to see whether they're credit worthy or not. And that will tell you whether AAA or B or whatever rating that there is. You're going to know down the street that there could be a possibility of a problem on credit as far as payment within 30, 60, 90 days. And you can find all this stuff out if you drill in a little deeper.
And just to add to that point as well, like I remember like the first company I worked with, like, hey, if they had, there's always, you can always be, I always say this, always be friends with the accounting team and the finance team, because those are the most important people I personally think in a company. But there was always kind of leeways. And one of the biggest things that we kind of looked at the first company was, hey, their credit might be garbage. It wouldn't deter me, because like we would switch it to, hey, I would have the conversation, hey, can you pay on credit card for the next 5 to 10 shipments, right? And then hey, if they're like, yeah, let's do it, like let's go ahead, then you can break that barrier instead of, hey, I look at the credit's garbage, and it's like, oh, okay, forget them. I'm not going to work with them at all.
And that's because you've got the relationship. I've been in that situation. I've had relationships with customers. When we go to do business, finally the credit app gets in, because I never had credit in my client profile. The credit app gets in, they're like, Dan, their credit's horrible. Call the customer up and go, listen, here's the situation. This is what we're getting back. They're like, well, this is what happened. And okay, can you put $30,000 into an account? Like prepay us $30,000. Yeah, you know what? We can do that. And then we chip away at that. Then we'll give you unlimited credit or whatever the case may be.
Exactly,
I mean, there's parameters.
Yeah,
but
over a period of time.
I've been through every which way. It's been multiple. Can you pay the first 10 loads COD?
Yep.
Right. I give it to you. You cut a check or you do a wire right away. We'll deliver. We're not going to sit outside and, give me the money. We'll deliver, but it has to be paid right away. Do you agree to that? Yes, I agree to that. Okay. There's multiple ways, but it all starts with that relationship, because they're your ideal client.
Exactly.
And you see eye to eye. And if there's this piece and they go, I want to get to this mountaintop, this is what I want to do. And you're going to build a bridge to bridge that gap for them. They will work with you because this is their goal. And you're the new opportunity. You're the new vehicle that's going to get them to their goal. You prove that. We're in a position right now where we had a customer leave a company. He says, I'm going to leave with this person. You're going to do freight for them. If she says you guys are good, you're in. And that's it. That's all he needs. He goes, and I know we'll bridge any gap we want. Done. So we're helping this person fulfill the goals that they have set, and that's working. And it's working wickedly. So we know the next account is golden.
Yeah.
And that's what a whole business is. Like every single business, I don't care what it is. this is what I want. This is where I want to be. That product, that service bridges the gap from where you are to where you want to be. That's it. So where do you want your customers to be? Where can you take them? Sit down and think of that. What you really want to do. And if you don't know, call your customers right now. What do you think I do well? I'm having a moment.
Great
Share
question.
with me. What do you think I do? Like, why are we doing business together? And don't be afraid to ask.
No.
Say,
Nope.
like, what is it that I do so well for you that you like, that you continue to come back? And
That's
that
how you
will give you the
build a relationship.
baseline for your next level of development.
Mhm.
And you'll notice, like, sometimes those conversations, it'll be the little things you do, like the very minuscule things that you do. Is like, hey, even something like, hey, whenever I send you a load, you reply like right away, and it's like, well, okay, I never thought about that, right? I'm thinking about getting the truck from A to B, but it's like those little things that you can fine tune. And like you said, you get those little things and you go to your next prospect, your next customer, and say, hey, this is what I'm doing for A. Like, can you give me an opportunity to show you what I can do? And kind of, I really like that point.
Yeah, multiply
I've
best.
had customers say, you know what, Dan? I mean, you guys move my freight great, but you're so high energy. I love talking to you. I'm like, okay, well, how can I monetize that? Like okay, okay, so how do I say to, and I tried it for a while. I'd call prospects. I said, listen, if you're interested in like really high energy and just like somebody that's going to make you smile, I'm your guy. It didn't work too well because I didn't have anything with business in there, but hey, you got to try it. And you just keep
well,
going
Dan, it's
back.
so funny to your point, because what I do is like, hey man, like, hey, if you don't like dog pictures, then we're not gonna work out, man. Like, if you don't want to see my dogs, if you don't want to see those attachments, then hey, we might. Maybe it just depends, right? The client.
Yeah, we only deal with people who love cats.
Yeah, exactly.
I scratch them off. I send them to Lisa and Chad.
Yeah, it's never just one dog picture.
No.
We'll be somewhere and somebody say, "Oh my god, you got dogs!" Oh yeah, here. And then, here's another good one. And then we'll sit there for like 10 minutes sifting through the phone for the cutest dog. Oh, here's another one. Oh yeah, and it's like, yeah, dogs.
I got a funny story for you. Actually, exactly like that. I had a prospecting call. We were on a Zoom call yesterday, and I was waiting for my ops team to come on. So probably about 5 minutes, 5 minutes later, or anything like that. And literally 5 minutes, we're just talking about dogs, because we can see in the background. So as soon as like our ops team came on, the prospect said, "Hey, like, yeah, we were just talking about dogs. You got any?" And then we kind of went off, and then we're like, "Hey, we got 30 minutes to talk business here. Let's get into that a little bit." But but at the end of the day, I know what checkbox was checked right there. But just kind of funny that you bring up that, because that happened last week.
Yeah,
and one last thing before we go, guys, when it comes to your client profile, every conversation, just make sure you move forward.
Yeah.
Right. Like Ryan, you brought up a great point where you talked about dogs. Like, oh my God, guys, we got 30 minutes. Let's put some business. But you move that needle forward from a relationship perspective, more than a 30-minute call about business would have ever moved. Right. And that's the key, is zero stagnation. Move forward with every single interaction. Yep. And if you can do that, I mean, our industry is 12% of the global GDP. There's millions for every single sales rep. Millions.
Really,
you just got to do it right, and you got to.
We don't have to go after the same people. We don't have to go after the same people, man. My best customers are people you've never heard of. Like
exactly. And here's the thing with our industry: there's a finite time during the day to make those sales calls.
Yes.
Right? Like you got to think. Digital marketing is 24/7. If your business operates on social media and you do paid ads, for example, you're 24/7. You create a really good paid ad, you sleep, it sells.
Yeah.
But we're limited to the hours in a workday. So how do you, and trust me, this is something that I have not stopped thinking about for 3 months, because I've been laid up in bed. Only thing I'm dealing with is my head. And how do you maximize your output in the time you're given? Because I'll tell you right now, you call a shipper up on a cell phone at 10 o'clock at night, say, "Hey, let's talk business." You're never getting that guy's business.
No.
Right?
Never.
Like, how do we maximize that output? And in my opinion, it's by qualifying as fast as possible. If I have a 5-minute conversation with you, that it's kind of leading nowhere, but I don't understand who my client profile is. And I have another 5, 10, 15 minutes. I've invested 20 minutes in it before I realize that my rates are too high.
Mm-hmm.
Before I realize this prospect only cares about rates. I want to qualify you in under a minute because my time really matters in those periods.
So do theirs.
And if we can't maximize that output, and a lot of people say, well, you know, yeah, but Dan, voicemail, 1000%. I would leave my number one question and my phone number on the voicemail. You know, hey, you know what, Jeff, I know you get a million phone calls a day. And here's what I got. Here's my question for you. If this interests you, please give me a call back. And you might need to leave that 5 times because it's not like, oh my God, that's exactly what, and they're going to call you back, right? It's, you know, you got to think there's that kind of 7 touch before they start really like hearing, recognizing your voice and all that. So there's the process, but I would leave that 5, 7, 10 times. It's taken me 20 seconds to leave a voicemail. I've spent a total of 2 minutes. And then after 10 times, if they didn't call back, I just, okay, see you later. Next. Cause there's so many companies out there. So many companies. But we get hung up on the, oh man, they got to have a ton of freight.
800-pound gorillas, you know, like as John said. We'll take a second then. Yeah. All right, boys. All right. That was a banger of an episode, you know. That's going to set the tone.
That was an hour episode.
Yeah,
yeah, I know, right? Like,
an episode well worth it.
Awesome. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. Dan, so amazing to have you back. You can definitely check the replay definitely again at 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern time on our social channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you found value in this video, please please comment, please share it with somebody that you think that, hey, maybe this can benefit them, especially with their ideal client profile. Tomorrow, we're going to discuss what we got some things going in the board. And Dan, Jeff, thanks again, brothers. See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, man. Have a great day, guys.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and start designing your career